And if you have any plans to utilize any AI to create forecasts in the future.
I hadn't thought about the AI piece, so I will put some thought into that. It's interesting you said that. I was like, so what I've done with forecasts, okay, and I've actually started consulting with small businesses for that because, like you said, a lot of them know they need it but don't necessarily know how to get there,
Mhm.
and it really starts with the things they taught us at 10KSB. Okay. It starts with your actual budget, your historical information. Your business has a ton of data. Okay. Sometimes you just don't know where it is or how to
Right.
use it. And so taking what you have historically from, okay, these are my expenditures, this is the money coming in, and then adding in some components to it. So, looking at, okay, this is the money I had coming in, and these are the sources. Oh, wow, I'm really heavy over here, and I put very little effort. I wonder if I can tweak that up a notch. So it's a little bit of like sales coaching along with getting the forecast and being realistic about it. Okay.
Mhm.
If your company has typically supported a 10 to 15% growth rate, can you achieve a 35? Maybe, but you have to make some plans for it. Okay. So then putting those items into what is your forecast? So the extra staffing, the time for hiring, the time for ads, all of those things. So I do kind of this whole ball of wax where I look at your sales process, what are you doing in your sales process? How are your leads coming in?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Analytical Rewired. I'm your host, Jennifer White, CEO of the MJW Group. And today I have with me Denise Kagan. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
Of course. I'm excited for today's conversation because Denise has a plethora of knowledge. She's been in the game now, the business game, for how long now? Because you've been around for a while.
Yes, I think it's 23, 24 years. This business is working on its 14th year.
That is amazing. So we'll dive in. I have some questions I want to ask around your transition between companies and different businesses you've owned. But why don't we start out, Denise, with you letting the audience know a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. My company is called DCA Virtual Business Support, and we support small business owners behind the scenes. I was part of my experience growing that as you start growing, that you start needing support and help in a lot of different areas. And so having a support system, a way that you can get that knowledge without necessarily having to train someone or hire someone, because there's a lot of work that goes into that, was the basis behind creating this business. So we have virtual assistants, executive assistants, social media marketing assistants, and we also do some website work as well. And it all kind of fell naturally into place. We didn't do everything starting out the gate, but it evolved a little bit over time.
Amazing, amazing. And yes, I wanted to have Denise on because I am a living testimony. We have worked with DCA twice now over the
Mhm.
years, and hopefully, when we reach out again, she'll say yes. So yeah, we love working with DCA, so I can definitely give a testimony to their services and the team. Like they were awesome and amazing to work with, and we always talk about who. I'm not gonna say your name, but we always talk about one of your team members. Like we loved her. So yeah. Um, so with DCA now, you said year 14.
Mhm. Yes.
What do you recognize has been a shift from year 1 to year 14 now? Like, what's the biggest thing you noticed that has totally like been a change?
So there's a ton of things. I mean, technology has evolved immensely, first of all. And, obviously the COVID pandemic just push things forward in a lot of different areas. There's been the shift towards AI and automations. But also I'm seeing that there are a lot more VA companies, and sometimes they're solopreneurs popping up, and a lot of people
Mhm.
just kind of hanging their shingle, so to speak. So, that's one thing that I've noticed over time.
Yeah, I've seen that out there as well, and it's a little scary. But everybody starts somewhere. I had to hang my shingle and start somewhere. But you learn and you realize over time, like, hey, this is somebody's entrusting me, right, to
Mhm,
take care
mhm.
of these things in this business. So I can't fumble, right? So there's a need for really, I guess, the maturity, right, that we all go through as a business. And like you said, from year 1 to year 14, there's probably so many things that you do totally different that you
Mhm.
didn't start out doing. So I guess with that, like, what is your take on AI? Like, I'm interested to hear, like, have you
Ooh.
guys started using it a little bit, or your clients are using it?
So I'm a slow adopter on AI. I
Okay.
am cautiously approaching it. And I embrace technology generally. There's, because of the work we do, there are some things that I just have questions about. So I'm like, I don't I'm not really ready to just say, hey, let's go ahead and use this thing. And interesting that you asked about this, because we just did a guidance training for our team about this with the do's and the don'ts. And I cited some
Mm,
of the information that I've gotten from, I read so many different things. I mean, I get all sorts of newspapers, all sorts of very industry specific things, and I get a very dedicated AI newsletter. And so there's, doomsday messages, model collapse. And I'm not going to get into any
yeah.
of those really deeply. But the bigger concern for us is originality, plagiarism, copyright infringement. Okay.
Mm,
And confidentiality. Are we ensuring that
yeah.
we're handling our clients and our information in a way that is not going to go out in this learning language model and be usurped and used elsewhere?
Right. I think that's at the top of every business's mind. We recently went to a conference on design and manufacturing here in Charlotte. I think it was last week, and we sat in on a discussion around AI in the manufacturing space. And I was like, I didn't even realize they were using GPTs in the manufacturing space, but they are. And I learned as well, I think ChatGPT has a Teams instance. I don't know if Microsoft does, because I've been utilizing Copilot a little bit. I
That's
really like,
Microsoft's.
yeah, I really like Copilot more than
Mhm.
ChatGPT. I'm not getting paid to say that, but it has
You should tag Microsoft in this. I'm just saying.
I didn't know Copilot existed till like literally a month ago.
Mhm.
Like, they've kind of kept it quiet a little bit. And even with Google, with Gemini, it's kind of been a little quiet because everything's been around Chat GPT. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was interesting to hear, like you're saying, like confidentiality, IP, even they spoke about at the talk we went to about what happens when an employee leaves a company, right? Because you're feeding all this information and it starts to learn more about the individual that's feeding that information. So
Mhm.
in essence, that GPT has that person's whole essence a little bit, like in how they think. So that is interesting. Like, I think there's a lot of room to come with it, but I'm very excited about it. I mean, it's something new.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really good valid uses for it. You
Yeah.
research, ideation, um, just shortcutting some things. And if you have something that's original, putting it into a closed system like Copilot can't, I think the subscription piece is a closed system, meaning it doesn't
Mhm.
go out to the World Wide Web and say, hey, revise this with this specific tone. And you can give it parameters. And I think it's good. The usage for it that way is incredible. It shortens your time.
Definitely, definitely. So speaking of time, I know I wanted to bring up this topic that you suggested about creating a forecast.
Yeah.
And I love this topic because I've already been hearing the world I come from in supply chain. We create, production and demand forecasts all the time. And they are starting to utilize AI to create these forecasts, believe it or not. So I'm curious to hear your take on creating a forecast, like historically, kind of manually, and then if you have any plans to utilize any AI to create forecasts in the future.
I hadn't thought about the AI piece, so I will put some thought into that. It's interesting you said that. I was like, so what what I've done with forecasts, okay? And I've actually started consulting with small businesses for that because, like you said, a lot of them know they need it, but don't necessarily know how to get there.
Mhm.
And it really, starts with the things they taught us at 10KSB. Okay. It starts with your actual budget, your historical information. Your business has a ton of data. Okay. Sometimes you just don't know where it is or how to
Right.
use it. And so taking what you have historically from, okay, these are my expenditures, this is the money coming in, and then adding in some components to it. So, looking at, okay, this is the money I had coming in, and these are the sources. Oh, wow, I'm really heavy over here, and I put very little effort. I wonder if I can tweak that up a notch. So it's a little bit of like sales coaching along with getting the forecast and being realistic about it. Okay.
Mhm.
If your company has typically supported a 10 to 15% growth rate, can you achieve a 35? Maybe, but you have to make some plans for it. Okay. So then putting those items into what is your forecast? So the extra staffing, the time for hiring, the time for ads, all of those things. So I do kind of this whole ball of wax where I look at your sales process, what are you doing in your sales process? How are your leads coming in? Can you capitalize on a specific area that requires less effort, that still generates, the required amount of sales to propel your budget, which increases your forecast,
Mhm.
realistically increases it? Or is there maybe a product or service that's a lot higher price point that you have to put more effort into, but that's the winning ticket. Okay. So there's a lot of those things that we look at. Like I said, the sales data, where it's coming from, incorporate that in, and then anticipated expenses as you grow, because a lot of people forget to put those anticipated expenses, not just the hiring and the new staff, but proportionately every business. Like for instance, I'm a Microsoft company. I'm not, but we use Microsoft.
Yeah.
Let me clarify. So we have subscriptions and we have
Right.
IT costs per seat. So making sure that the per seat cost is increasing. I have Dashlane, which is password keeper, making sure that that is, increasing in my forecast as I plan to bring on new people to service these new accounts. And so that's the gist of the financial piece. There's other areas that I help people with budgeting as well, and that is looking at how they're using their time. And in 2019, when I went through the Goldman Sachs program, we were bleeding money. I'm just going to tell you, we were bleeding money. And it was frightening because I really thought for a little while that the business was going to shut down. And so we
Mhm.
started looking at where are we spending all of our time? And we did some immediate drastic cuts just so we could get our feet under us. And then we started looking more strategically. Okay.
Mhm.
And started putting budgets in place for our non-billable time, because you have to have that internal time to run your company. And so we started putting budgets in place for all of the various different things that we do in the company to ensure that we're staying on track. And there's some variables. If we're hiring, we have to spend the time to do the interviewing. That's just given. If we're getting a ton of sales calls, hey, we're going to take those, So there's some variables in there, but that's really how I work with folks with the budgets and the forecasts.
Love it, love it, love it. Bars, bars, bars. All these bars and golden nuggets and diamonds dropping everywhere.
I can
I
see him
love it.
showering.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I love everything you just mentioned, Denise, because as you were talking, I could literally remember myself going through this at our company, and we still are. Like, you will shift and change and pivot, right? Because businesses do this. Like, there's
Mhm.
no, I have yet to discover this linear line that everybody keeps talking about. I'm like, where is it? Because I haven't found it yet. But yeah, what you're saying is spot on, and it's hard for, I guess, sometimes a smaller businesses to understand that, right? Like, everything isn't like a billable hour, right? There's this overhead that you have to account for, right? When you start scaling, right? You talked about the technology, right? Every seat, like the total subscription cost. There could be maintenance for, I don't know, your website, other software that we utilize, right? And then when you hire employees, there's benefits, there's payroll taxes, like there's all these other fringe costs that we don't necessarily think about, and that should be captured in your budget, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just as important, like you're saying.
You can even capture ramp up costs, which is about
Yeah.
staffing. Okay. All about staffing. You can measure, okay, I hire this employee and it's 3 months before they're doing actual billable work, like a full load or a
Hmm.
30% load or a 50% load, whatever it is. So you can measure those ramp up costs and determine, okay, at this position will be profitable in X amount of months.
Right. Right. And that is so important because I had to adopt that mindset. Like you said, like, there's a ramp, right? People are learning and they have to learn your business. It's not to say that they can't do their role, but they just have to learn your way of
Mhm.
doing things. And then once they get there, you as a business owner, right? Or every company on the face planet Earth, right? We want to see a return, right? From that employee. Otherwise, like you said, you're gonna be bleeding money and then you have to make decisions. Okay, do I keep this person or not? So there are some productivity metrics and data, I agree with you, that needs to get factored in as well.
Mhm. And I think it's hard for, especially a smaller business, seeing the value in bringing someone on before the work is actually there. It's it's really hard to. I mean, I
Oh,
struggled with this.
it's
You know,
hard.
even my operations manager occasionally would say, "But we don't have accounts to give them." I was like, "But by the time we train them, we will." You know,
Right,
or
right,
somebody will have given notice, and then we have to, do the transition there. I was like, "We will have work for them."
right. And I guess what you're saying is your forecast equals your faith. Because as a small business owner,
It does. It really, really does. Oh my
it
goodness.
really does.
That's a good way of putting it.
It really does, because you are the one kind of, you know, sales creates the, well, business development sales, right? They're creating the vision, everybody marches to it to say, like you said, okay, we've done really well with this type of client. Let's go find other clients and customers like this one, because we've proven ourselves. So it should be a lot simpler to get our foot in the door, to start having that conversation, and then hopefully land them and they convert at some point. So I definitely do think um, there's definitely a need for people to understand how creating forecasts can really help shape the direction of your company and the route that you want to go, because otherwise you don't really have anything you're following, you know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. It forces you to think about, what is it that I'm going to offer? How is it that I'm going to
Hmm.
grow? And helps you look at, the dead weight, whether that is things you're offering, because sometimes those can definitely be with dead weight.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's positions. I hate to refer to it that way, but sometimes it is maybe a role that's not as useful as it was when you first started. That doesn't mean that person doesn't have a place in your organization. Maybe they need to be shifted. But sometimes it's just looking at that and restructuring and seeing what a better way of doing things could be.
So if a potential client is interested to work with DCA Virtual, how and when do you recommend they reach out to you all?
Before the need becomes imminent.
Hair on fire?
Yeah, hair on fire is not usually the right time. And that is one of my things where I talk to accountants all the time. It's like, okay, talk to us in November and December. Let us get to know your business before your hair turns on fire. It's just when January turns, because accountants that are doing taxes, that January through,
Yeah,
mid-April is crazy for them.
it is. It definitely is. And I think we kind of echo the same with our clients. And I don't know why. It's just it seems to always be last minute. It seems
It
to
does
always be
happen.
that way.
It does. It takes a little bit of a different mind shift to think
Yeah.
about it. It's that growth mindset, like understanding and the future, the prediction, because forecast is a little bit of prediction, but it's based on
Yeah.
solid knowledge and data. Okay. So understanding that, and understanding that if you do it based on that solid data and foundation, even though it's a bit of a prediction, you're doing it with good information and you're minimizing your risk. So getting to whatever you need, your services, my services, before your hair is on fire is the right thing to do.
Yeah, yes, it is. Um, what would you say are 1 to 2 things you had to totally rewire about
Hmm.
your business? Because at the Analytical Rewired here, we like to talk about how we utilize our left brain to think analytical, methodical, and I have a feeling you're more left brain, just like me. And then how do we utilize our right brain to solve problems as well, right? The creativity, the innovation, right? How do you utilize both, and what have you had to rewire totally?
So I have had to rewire my management skills. It's leadership skills, not specifically. I'm good at managing. Okay. I can
There
go,
is a
yep,
difference, everyone. I'm glad
this,
you
it needs to
pointed
be
that
done.
out.
Okay. I've had to rewire my leadership skills, understanding how to work with today's employee versus, I don't know if you know this, but I'm at the tail end of baby boomers. Okay.
Did notice that.
So yeah, I am. I'm a grandma. Actually, a nanny is what she calls me. So, anyways, so I my work ethic, what I was taught when I was growing up was basically just do what I say. Okay, that was a lot of it. You sometimes heard, put your big girl panties on and just get on with it. Okay, stop that crying. So the way I was taught management and exposed to it initially was very different than
Mhm.
how leaders actually lead a team now. So I had to rewire my thinking there. We got some folks in, did some listening sessions. We did some emotional training courses. And, we continue to try to upgrade the team, including myself, because we all need it. Okay. And
Mhm.
we practice active listening and just problem solving. Whereas, hey, let's work through this problem. We're not trying to get to blame. People do need to take accountability, but let's fix the problem first. Okay. So it's just a different way of thinking of things. And I've actually seen my team blossom since I rewired my leadership style.
That is amazing. Bars, 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 bars. I hope everybody picked up on what Denise is saying, because yes, I think I heard there's what, 4 or 5 generations all working together now.
Oh, yeah,
So
I think so.
yeah, it's totally different. And I agree with you, because my parents are baby boomers, and I came from that. I didn't see that empathetic, emotional, when I cried, it was like, okay, get up, scratch it off, shake it off, like,
Yes, exactly.
get up. Boy, we got things to do. And my parents, they never really missed days of work. And I didn't miss days of school. Like, we went to school, we went to work. So that's what I saw. But you're exactly right. Nowadays, it's different. It is different. It's different, and we're having to learn how to lead with that. So I agree with you because management and leadership are two separate things, like very different. And I think the military, our armed forces do a great job of making sure people know what the difference is. If I had to use a great example of that, now that it's penetrating more into our workplaces, I think we do have to be open, to, like you're saying, like the active listening and, empathetic and, other terms that are being thrown around nowadays. But it's very important because we want to make sure everyone, feels safe in the workplace and
Mhm.
they have a voice, right, to speak as well. So it's a good
Right.
example. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what is up next for DCA? Like what's working in the kitchen? What are you guys brewing up?
Ooh, what are we brewing up? So we have launched some website audits. We probably did that maybe about 12 months ago. And, my amazing guru on the websites handles all that. And then we've also started an internship program. It's in the very, very beginning phases. We've had a few interns, like one at a time, come through so we could figure out what we were doing with this program and how we
Okay.
wanted it to work. It's been a really, really, really good experience. And so we're probably going to be offering some a little bit lower priced packages for some of the interns, filling those needs on a limited basis. It's not something that we're trying to turn the whole business into,
Yeah.
but we want to be able to. That's one of the ways we can give back to the community is
Mhm.
taking these, young folks, and a lot of times they're either, between 20 and 25 typically. Some of them, like one of the last interns she had a master's. She was super smart, but she had no practical experience. And I could tell she was super smart. And every single one of our interns that we've brought in, they have that growth mindset. They have got that, yes, let's do this. Yes, let's
Yeah.
figure it out. And they've got some of the skills, but not all of the skills that we would typically use for that position. So we bring them into a learning type environment.
I love that. I love that. And we are embarking on that as well. We've created our foundation for, I think we called it an apprenticeship of
Oh, nice.
sorts. But yeah, we're going to start bringing some in for the fall. So we're excited as well. And you're right. Because I can remember how I was at that age as well, right? So I have behind me this word, right? You can be very smart and get dropped into any kind of system or organization, but you have to figure out how to manage and lead
Mhm.
with people, to get things done, because we can't just bulldoze our way to get things done. And sometimes I remember when I was an intern, I was like you're saying, like I had a growth mindset. So I was like, yeah, let's just do that, let's just do this, and everybody's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, like
But
pump
those are the
pump
ones
the
I
brakes.
embrace.
Pump
Those
the
are really
brakes a
the ones
little
I
bit.
like.
Like, you got to talk to Larry and Joe, and it got to go to Bob over here. And 4 months later, then we'll be ready. I'm like, well, I'm gonna be back in school by then. Well, that's just how it is.
Mm,
So I love that. I'm excited for you guys. That's cool.
thank you.
Awesome.
And very excited to hear more about your apprenticeship program too.
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you know. I'll fill you in. Is there anything you want to share with the audience before we hang up? It could be program you guys got going on, or maybe you have like some tips, a digital download or anything like that. Anything you want to share with the audience?
So I am offering a free budget forecasting consultation. It's about a 1 hour session and it's not on the website anywhere. We're in the process of developing some landing pages for that, but they can just reach out to me via my email or my LinkedIn profile.
Okay. And what is your email and LinkedIn profile?
So email is just Denise, my first name, DENISE at dcavirtual.com. And LinkedIn, if you just look for Denise Kagan, you should be able to find me.
Awesome. Amazing. And she does answer everyone. You will not go into a black abyss Denise always well, she answers my call when I email. I don't know about everybody else.
I try to answer all.
But no, this has been amazing, Denise. Thank you so much for dropping your nuggets and words of wisdom. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience appreciates it as well. Everyone, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.